Hello everyone, my name is Circus Katie and this is going to be my first YouTube video, so hooray for me. I'm sorry if you hear any background noises. I'm at my grandma's farm, so farm noises. Birds are currently in the other room. They say hi. For my first video, I'm going to be doing an audio. This is going to be a Dream Sans X Sad Depressed Reader, and this is by Totally Professional. She is a quotev writer. She is amazing at writing. I will link her down below in the description. Go read her stories. They are amazing. Like, I cannot describe how good they are. But for this purpose, this is pretty personal to her. So the listener, is going to be a female. Consider this your trigger warning. There is parental arguments and some depressing themes. And without further ado, I won't bore you, so let's get into the one-shot. "Why don't you make anything for me?" came the woman's shout, turning the heads of both children, along with the father, over to the human that was presently standing in the doorway. Overall, she seemed less than pleased, with arms crossed across her chest, brows furrowed, and eyelids pressed into a squint. She stood tall, reaching higher than the young children in the room, but she was about the same height of the older male and her son. Hair-like tresses cascaded down the sides and back of her head, slightly tinted color from being recently dyed that color. Not your own eye color. Eyes peered at the scene, which was the rest of the present family sitting at the table eating second favorite food for dinner. Scanning over the people present, her eyes landed on the husband, who had been smiling at her until what she had said. His expression turned to one of bewilderment, but that only spurred from the woman's disinterest of the food. "Mom, it's for everyone," the voice of the female child, who was still trying to eat, called out quietly, and the brother soon repeated those words, earning a "yeah" from the father. In reality, the second-born knew this would dissolve into nothing more than yet another petty argument between her two parental figures, but this time she didn't know if she could take it anymore. After they had left their current state and moved into Arizona, not only did the blistering heat constantly pelt them, but it seemed as a curse had plagued the family with arguments. At least once a week, the two parents would find something to get angry at each other over and subsequently begin to argue about. The children definitely took this and became very confused, but the daughter took it straight to heart. She believed that their relationship was falling apart for whatever reason, but this was after two seemingly friendly families had used her mother's kindness against her. Hair-color locks that looked unwashed for several days folded over skin-color arms, with hands that were pressing against her forehead. Eye-color eyes brimmed with tears and stared at what was below her head, her dinner. Well, what was left of it? The child was willing themselves not to cry, but as the tension grew by the nanosecond, she anticipated the worst from her parents, who seemed to be neglecting the children at this moment. "I've said it before that I don't like it. Why do you cook for the kids and not me?" the wife once again called out, seeming to break her spouse's heart, which was already worn and torn by the tides of war, and not only internal wars. The lack of any sort of hair on top indicated baldness, but his beard was well kept and tamed, the same of his mustache. Eye-color eyes filled with despair and looked onto his partner, but hers held no sympathy. He stood up and began to walk towards the kitchen, but he was blocked by the mother of the small family. "Mother's name, I'm going to make something for you," the father offered, trying to place a hand on her shoulder, but it was only slapped away. At this action, which Ryan was watching, the youngest hearing seemed to blur a bit. It became a mix of yells and attempts of calming the fight, but nothing was going to help. The tears that were previously welled up were going to spill. No amount of will was going to hold them back. 2 minutes later, and the female child decided that it was enough. Abandoning her plate of food, she stood up with an emotionless expression, sighed, and walked off to her room, leaving her brother, who would just drown it out with music anyways, eating, and her parents calling her back down to the table, but it was already too late. It was the final straw that broke the camel's back. The moment the child entered the room, the door was closed and locked, but no soothing candles, lights, or anything was within a decent radius. All that she wanted to do was cry, and at that point, that was exactly what they did. The tears that had been held back through the argument came back to haunt them, and they simply allowed them to break the dam that she had held up, only to take it down when alone. There was no need for any psychological examinations, but it wasn't quite obvious if she had any sort of disorder. There weren't any physical signs, but there was most definitely behavioral cues. But that wasn't nearly enough to self-diagnose. Harsh sobs racked the child as a certain spirit was watching this unfold, and a surge of determination filled his being, and he finally decided to teleport into the child's room. Underneath the sheets, blankets, and singular pillow over bed, the younger child continued to cry uncontrollably. Muffled from the floor, but still audible, shouts came from downstairs, though they were indiscernible. The child, nonetheless, didn't want to hear them, but there's nothing she can do about it now. Human? The sobs paused. After about 15 seconds, the child took her head out from her pillow and looked at the source of the sound, which they found to be a skeleton. Their appearance was pleasing to the eyes, with shawl, belt, and a black one-piece on their torso and legs, along with the gold scarf, gloves, and boots with teal belts. What surprised them most was the golden crown atop their head and the daffodil-colored lights in their otherwise empty sockets that were staring at her. There was no fear, only a bit of hesitance. "Who are you? What are you?" the human questioned, but less panically and more confusedly. They felt a wave of calm when they called him human, but she was confused nonetheless. Dream, however, was delighted to see that the human had decided to address his presence, and smiled at her patiently before walking over. At this action, the human backed up slightly, and Dream stopped to allow her space. "Well, this may seem weird, but I'm a skeleton, obviously," Dream began, earning a dismayed look from the human. "But don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. In fact, I'm for the opposite of that. I want to help you." At this statement, the human felt very concerned for her own sanity and reached over to her phone to schedule a trip to the psychiatrist. But that was before the skeleton actually took the phone out of her hands with his. An absolutely dumbfounded expression covered the human's face as he proceeded to move it to another part of the room, then returned to sit on the bed. This may seem strange. In fact, it probably is. But it's actually real and tangible and trying to help you. So if you could do me a huge favor and not make everyone think you're an absolute nutcase, that would be great, Dream then told the human. And at that statement, to his surprise and absolute delight, she laughed at his request genuinely. There was a smile then on her face, and Dream lit up with a similar expression. "Great," he cheered in her fit of giggles, and he scooted closer to her to make his aura have a better effect on her emotions. If he were to be honest, he would say that he found it kind of cute when she was actually blushing in her state of uncontrollable chuckles. The human, however, was confused as to how she had suddenly went from having an internal conflict about what happened not even 7 minutes ago to laughing at a small and sarcastic joke. She found herself actually smiling at it, and she felt relieved that she wasn't as sad anymore. Emphasis on as. "In any case, I forgot to introduce myself," Dream told her, and he stood up from the bed, held out a hand to her, and smiled. "I'm Dream, guardian of positive emotions. It's nice to meet you, YN." Suddenly, the human became befuddled, as he had used her name without proper introduction. "Wait, how do you know my name?" YN then asked, her smile turning into a worried expression. "Are you a stalker or something?" Dream shook his head wildly, with hands put up in defense. "Your phone had your name on it," she was then told, causing her to face palm. "Oh. Yeah, do you mind telling me what's wrong, or are you still too confused and conflicted?" At this question, her eyes filled with sadness again. But it wasn't just from the reminder of what was going on. Actually, it was, just not from Dream. More muffled shouts filled the house, some sounding more vulgar than others, and it was obvious that the father was now also yelling instead of being yelled at. Wyann's shoulders slumped at the noise, and tears once again filled her eyes as she laid down. Dream was mortified by all this. He had no clue what was happening, but this curse wasn't exactly going to be broken by just some positive magic. "Oh, that's why," Dream inquired before looking over to see his new friend back to crying. "Human!" He proceeded to climb into the bed with her and hug her from behind. The moment the human felt this, the sadness began to melt away once again. It wasn't exactly replaced by happiness, but comfort. Dream's firm, but still welcoming and warming, embrace had her pinned to him, but she wasn't exactly wanting to get up right at this moment. "Shh, it's okay, human," Dream quietly cooed before removing one of his hands from the hug and beginning to stroke her hair. "I'll be here for you. You're okay." As more soothing words and compliments became pointed in her direction, the human soon became tired. hands and feet going numb, along with the sense of just tired coming into her body. The eyelids that were previously carrying tears were now struggling to stay open. Another wave of sleepiness overcame her senses, and she succumbed to the sleep that she had been needing for a very long time. That's better, Dream told himself, with an accomplished smile before releasing her, placing a pillow in her arms, and leaving to calm the argument that was occurring somewhere else in the house. Maybe I should come back sometime. And that concludes the audio for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for some of the stutters. I'm not exactly the best at reading. I'm sorry. But I really hope you enjoyed. Once again, full credit for the story goes to Totally Professional on quotev. I'm linking her in the description down below. Go check her out on quotev. Her stories are amazing, beautiful. Just go check them out for yourself. And of course, Dream belongs to Joku, and the voice belongs to myself. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next chapter. Video. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.